Hello everybody, this is True Demon. Um, and, well, I guess this is the first real recording that I'm doing on this channel, so we'll see how it goes. I wanted to address the current stock offering that was announced for Progenity. I understand that a lot of people see this sort of thing and they get immediately freaked out about dilution and stuff like that. This is a little bit different, it's a little bit more nuanced. For those of you that may have seen my tweets addressing this, this is a public offering, so it's going directly out into the market. And Progenity has issued some very specific statements in how they plan on selling this stock. It's not the same thing as just a direct dilution where it's just all at once flooding into the market. It's a little bit more not really complicated, but there's subtleties in here that I want to make sure that they get addressed so that everybody understands everything that's going on and they can make their own decisions as informed investors and not just see this, think dilution and panic, or see this and think that it immediately means something that it doesn't. So let's just look at this objectively and see what's going on. So this is the 424B5 filing, which is just simply a prospectus on investment changes that Progenity is doing. This is what they issue every single time that they're going to announce some release of stock, anything like that. So super simple. They're just announcing that they're selling approximately a target of $90 million in stock, or at least that's what they intend to do. They issued that the market closed at $4.89 on November 19th, and the statements made in this filing indicate that they are planning on doing this this at-the-market offering through a underwriter who's going to be assisting them. That's going to be B. Riley Securities, which you can see up here, and H.C. Wainwright & Co., which is one that they've been using for most of their sale of stock. So if we go ahead and roll on down here, we'll just go ahead and skip all of that stuff. This is the main meat of the offering. So currently this is what's outstanding after the offering is completed. So we're going to be up to a little over 197 million shares of stock after the 18.4 or so million shares are released into the market. Again, this is where they state that they are placing it at a public offer price of $4.89 per share. But given that this is an at-the-market offering that's being handled through an underwriter and somebody else with B. Riley Securities handling the actual exchange, they're going to probably sell it in bits and pieces, so as they get a better price, maybe even more. And it's interesting that they specifically name this share price here because they don't have to do that, but they're expressing intention to sell it at this price, and we can kind of infer that this indicates that they're setting a floor price here. Kind of think of it like a limit sale price. So, like it says, at the market offering may be made from time to time through the agents. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen all at once. They're going to sell it in chunks, most likely, probably a block of a few thousand or 10,000s of shares every so often. This could take a couple of days. It might take weeks. It could go on for more than a month. We don't know. So it's not going to be like just this all at once, get it out into the market sort of thing. Like, so if anybody is telling you that, that's not what's going on. So there's no reason to panic over that. I also want to clarify this section here because there's a lot of numbers and talking about shares. This is the total number of shares that were outstanding as of September 30th. So this is where Progenity's stock was. They've issued a lot of new shares since then, and they also issued warrants and convertible securities. So let's go ahead and break that down. So this one right here, this is the 13.3 million shares that was offered back on October 5th. This is when we had that first run up, hit $2.20 or so, and then they announced the offering, and of course the perfect timing. That is Ethereum Capital Management, or whoever it was. We don't know for sure, but I don't know anybody else that can sell more than 10 million shares in less than 5 minutes. So I'm going to assume it was Ethereum, sold 5 minutes before this announcement of the 13.3 million shares. So as soon as this dropped into the market, the price that they set for that was at $1.50. So that caused the price to drop down pretty quickly. And it took about 4 days, so they announced the closing of that on October the 9th, and then immediately after that, we shot straight back up. So I'll go ahead and point that out on the chart just so that everybody can see exactly when that occurred. So if we go back right about EA. So this is when we first had our run up. I got into Progenity just a couple of days before this happened. So sometime in mid-September, I got in a little bit back here. Can't exactly remember which date, but this was pretty early on for me. And then held through this sudden spike that we had, and then they announced their dilution right at the top, right here, and the price fell back down for a few days. And then finally on October, well, on Saturday, they announced the closing of that, and then the very next Monday, we went straight back up and closed at $2.15. So that's part of why I'm not even remotely worried about this dilution. So I'll just go ahead and say it, like, I'm not selling anything. I'm gonna probably keep buying more as I'm able to add more to my portfolio. But I really don't expect this to have a very pronounced effect on the price. We can see that there was a dip after hours, but it got bought up really quickly. And I suspect that it was more than likely market makers just testing the after hours levels on foreign exchanges. So, but in any case, so as soon as that offering completed, like the very next day after they announced that the offer was done, and this was a direct offer, so not a public offer, but as soon as it was over with, immediately had a 58% gain on the day, that's crazy. And then we followed up with like a brief increase that brought us up about 20% from that, and then came back down for a 7% gain. And we've just been in a steady increase with this Wyckoff accumulation pattern ever since. So right about here is when we entered the reaccumulation phase. We hit a new all-time high, and then zigzag for a little while, and now we hit the spring right in this area, had a brief consolidation for a day, and then I wouldn't even call this a squeeze, because it was really just FOMO buying and algorithms completing the accumulation phase. So now we're entering back into a consolidation phase. So we're going to hang out around here for a little while longer, and I suspect that sometime between I'm looking at sometime between November the 25th and possibly as far out as December the 3rd for some big move to come. These consolidation phases can last a little while, but it looks like we're kind of forming a bit of a bullish pennant, or a triangle here. So I don't expect this to last for very long. Go ahead and go back to the filing here. So in addition to those 13.3 million shares, we had 10.8 million that got sold as a part of, well, not sold, but reserved as a part of a convertible debt security. This is important because these 10.8 million shares weren't sold, they were reserved as part of a convertible note, which is basically when somebody says, okay, Progenity goes to a company and says, hey, we need a loan. And the company says, sure, we can give you a loan for X number of dollars. And if you can post, Y number of shares as collateral, and then give us a strike price that we can agree on, um, then we can if your company's share price goes like above that, then we can choose to exercise it and buy those shares off of you at the given strike price, same as you would with a call option. Or you can just pay off the debt slowly over time, and whichever comes first. If we exercise the shares, then you're free and clear of the debt. That's exactly what happened with Progenity. So these 10.8 million shares got converted from the convertible notes. So now Progenity no longer owes that money. This was some common stock that was sold directly to Ethereum as part of the dilution. In addition to this, and well, actually, this was more like a waiver fee, which basically anybody who's been following this for a while knows that Ethereum had a majority stranglehold on the stock. So, in order to allow for the dilution to happen, Ethereum had to sign a piece of paper that said, "Yes, you can dilute, but we require you to give us 427,000 shares in return for that." So, Ethereum, who also bought most of those shares as a part of the dilution, also got these shares sold to them as a part of a waiver. Just a brief explanation for that. And then the rest of it was warrants, which you can think of as options sold by the company directly to somebody else. And then these remaining shares, which were sold, exercised as a part of options. So that pretty much brings up the sum total of the shares up until now, where we're adding another 18.4 million shares into the free float. That at least sums up all the shares that we've had added into the market up until now. So I find it interesting that Progenity decided to include this clause here in their filing. But it's amusing to me that they specifically noted that they understand that they've become the target of a short squeeze. AMC did this exact same thing when they were being targeted back in May, and their prospectus was released as a part of their dilution to Mudrick Capital, and I believe it was approximately 8 million shares that they sold to Mudrick as a part of a direct offering as opposed to a public offering. And shortly after, Mudrick decided, hey, since we got these shares and the price went up, we're just going to go ahead and sell those. And then it immediately squeezed on June 2nd through June 3rd. So this is a funny little coincidence slash history on some of these kind of plays and their relation to dilution. So most of the additional details that we have included in this filing they're specifically relating to their DDS and their OBDS, which is their drug delivery system, and their oral I forget the acronym, but basically it's their new technology for their oral delivery system of otherwise intravenously delivered drugs, like Humira, for example. So they have a lot of statements in this filing that refer to specifically the the we'll say the prospects of and the implications of what this technology can do for the company, and what this money is going to be used for. They're also kind of saying that, yeah, COVID made things a little expensive for us, so we're asking investors for additional. That's why we're raising this additional capital, and in order to successfully complete clinical studies. so that was another piece that that got my attention. The the one thing that I would like to remind everybody of is that earlier this year, Progenity was very, very uncertain with its future. Nobody had any idea if this company was going to be able to survive, but miraculously, they came out with these brand new patents in all kinds of new technology between their preeclampsia rule-out test called Precludia and also the new oral drug delivery system, which is the most exciting piece, and then also like hereditary cancer rule-out tests and their genetic sequencing technology, which they just recently patented. All of these things are like extremely new, novel, and exciting technologies that can be supremely beneficial for the field of internal medicine, and especially for detecting hereditary diseases. Um, all of that requires clinical study, and all of that is quite expensive stuff. So it is not a surprise to me that a few months ago, or a month ago, I should say, they were diluting stock in order to get through till Q3 of 2022. Um, so all of that money, yes, that would get Progenity to survive till Q3 of 2022. That much is true. There's a difference between surviving and thriving. And I believe that they are raising this capital at this exact moment in time, or at least putting the shares out on offer because they they believe that the stock is going to increase in value in the short term. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing a public offering. There's no sense in doing a public offering if they didn't believe that the stock was going to maintain that $4.89 value. So, in addition to the new information that they're going to be doing these new clinical studies, or at least that's what they're hinting at, as well as the prospective partnerships that they keep hinting at and saying it's right around the corner. I really do feel like it's truly right around the corner because in addition to these clinical studies, these partnerships that they are supposedly working on securing are going to require them to more than likely start producing product. I do not think that it is a coincidence that they had to raise capital at this moment in time, or at least they want to raise additional capital at a time when they are discussing all these partnerships, at a time when the company has secured plenty of funding to survive for the remainder of the next year, and at a time when they have plenty of patents that are ready to be applied to new technology in medicine that they do not yet have in production. Production is extremely expensive, as are these clinical studies. And I can attest to that from my investment in Senseonics, watching how much money that they spent in order to test for their 180-day product. But we won't get into that here. The point is, these kinds of studies are expensive, as is going to market with these products. So I have my suspicions. This is just speculation on my part, but if they have secured a partnership, which I'm sure they have, since they keep talking about 3 brand new ones that are going to be very exciting, I believe that they are going to have the burden of putting these clinical studies together, but also setting up production in order to work with these partners and start applying their technology to their partners' products, whether they be drugs or some collaboration in the field of medicine and pharmaceuticals for treatment through emergency rooms or maternity wards with their Precludia test, things like that. So the rest of this prospectus is extremely long, extremely boring, and I feel as though I've done at least a decent job of summing it up for everybody. Um, and I just kind of wanted to break it down in a way that didn't require someone to go through all 42 pages of this legalese. So hopefully you found that helpful. And at the very least, even if it doesn't quite make sense, um, I just want to communicate to everybody that this is in no way bearish. This isn't a bad thing that's happening. A lot of people have very mixed or even very negative feelings about what dilution means or what sale of stock means. People think that the company's taking advantage of retail. That's really not the case. Shares are they are absolutely a tool that the company needs to use in order for it to be able to secure additional funding very rapidly in order to build a product, and they need it to produce a product. I mean, even just in this perspective, all the discussion of using contract research organizations that has to do with securing somebody to go and perform the clinical studies on their behalf using their products, and then contracting manufacturing organizations. It costs money to supply, distribute, and produce this technology. These guys are getting ready to go to market. $90 million is absolutely going to be critical for them to go to market rapidly. I think that this is just the turning point. Pretty soon, we're about to see, I feel, Progenity's value go through the roof. So I just, maybe I didn't word things correctly in my tweets in such a way that made things clear enough, but I hope that this clears everything up and makes it a little easier for everybody to understand that this is not bearish at all. This is extremely bullish. This company is, yes, selling stock, but they're doing it so that they can go to market and do it quickly. Things are happening so fast for Progenity, and their stock price is rising so rapidly. I've not seen this kind of movement out of any other stock that I've traded thus far. So I'm extremely excited for what's to come, and I hope everybody is too. But that's all that I have for y'all. So I will see you in the morning.